just making sure that like I keep up with it because we have a running document, so.
We're ready then? Call her to order? Yep. Call the meeting to order. And there, one agenda item for this special meeting is discussion on emergency response plan.
Okay, we've got what we worked on today. We've got it pretty close to being done, but we're still tweaking some things. We'll go through it. Personnel, this is all our personnel, normal school operations. We take our precautions as directed by Department of Health, hand washing. If we're not feeling well, stay home. Students not well, then they should also stay home, and then we would contact the parents. If it goes to extended school closure, then all teachers and necessary staff would be provided a laptop, which they already have, and use at school and at home. And then the teachers would work from home and be available during 7:50 to 3:50. Our administrative, normal school operations would communicate frequently with county health and the impact of this coronavirus, monitor attendance, prepare to address significant staff absences, and direct. We've got the district emergency response online learning plan, which this is, that will be sent to the state. And if it goes to extended closure, then we would identify essential personnel, make sure we've got hours for that we're doing remotely or here, and then execute our online plan. Our secretary administrative assistants, normal school operations. If we're in session, we're aware of the absent policies. We assist in keeping students away from others, in contact with parents, and follow the recommendations from our principals in school illness. And if it's extended school closures, our staff will vary depending on who and what and when we're in the buildings, and then the same duties performed, but schedules will need to be verified through the superintendent. Custodians, normal school operations. If we're in session, follow the cleaning procedures, clean and disinfect. And extended, we'll follow expectations given by superintendent and alternate work hours and expectations. Teachers, if we're normal, they prepare and provide the instructional opportunities. We're able to work from home if we need to. Students that are not well should be kept away from others and their parents contacted. Reassure our students, provide emotional support, and clean and disinfect highly touched classroom surfaces daily. And extended school closures, we would be involved going through our online learning programs like we're currently producing here. Educational support staff expectations will vary by the needs of the district. Tech coordinator during normal times would have the normal ensure operations are running, prepare our teachers for providing online learning, determine conferencing tools, prepare technology. And extended school closure, we got to make sure that all the stuff is implemented. As we've seen, she did that tonight. Provide the technology support and follow up with families. Superintendent, normal school operations, work closely with Department of Health and Department of Public Instruction, communicate and work closely with county health and neighboring school superintendents, and prepare and update staff and stakeholders. Necessary updates be emailed, sent out an alert, or posted on the school's website and Facebook page. Extended school closure, again, same things, and execute the school closure plan and prepare reintegration plans as the closure continues. Food service, if we're normal, they do the obviously the work in the kitchen. If we go to extended school, then they'll evaluate food distribution planning and preparation. Our district emergency response plan for learning extended closures. Our essential staff, we've listed myself, Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Bussey, Mrs. Bitts, Mr. Cruff, and Mrs. Kuderna. And then
Alyssa Albright.
Alyssa Albright would go on there also for building emergency response team. Professional development, how to be a great online instructor will be shared. We're doing some professional development provided through Zoom. We've got resources that will be shared on an ongoing basis. Daily check-ins with administration, technology support provided by Mrs. Bitts. Human service policies, teachers required to connect with their principals daily. If they miss a check or cannot show their lessons that took place that day, they will take a leave or a sick day. Employees of BCN will continue to be paid as long as their distance learning plan is approved by DPI. School board may wish to suspend policies that limit the operational efficiency during extended school closure. And the purpose of this plan is to communicate to our stakeholders that we are continuously planning and for the circumstance at hand. Obviously, the information changes rapidly. Most of our stakeholders are hearing information before the district is even able to communicate through it. So know that we're getting the most accurate information to you as soon as we find out. DPI has requested districts put in place a transition to online learning. And since we're a one-to-one device school, we do have the means to continue learning online. We ensure that students have equitable access to learning materials. We're using Seesaw pre-K through 3, Schoology through 4 through 12, as all as our learning management systems, and we'll utilize that into the online learning. The intent of the plan is to educate and graduate the students of BCN through the remainder of the academic year while maintaining the health and safety of our students and staff and community. Our emergency plan will be updated as new information is provided by the state. Our mission is together we'll provide the foundation to empower students to pursue their vision. Our vision is to provide students with foundation and essential skills of collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking by implementing, participating in, enhancing a viable curriculum given by data to enable our children to become productive and responsible citizens. Our values are building relationships, lifelong learning with a growth mindset, promoting a culture of respect, student-centered curriculum instruction, transformational learning through technology. In our notification of plans, Barnes County staff will be notified by email alerts of the district's updates on coronavirus. Our families will be notified by email alerts, and all information will also be posted to our Facebook page and our website. And then the sample letter, we're just going to hook to, we're going to get the letter created, and then we're going to hook an attachment to it. But basically it just says that when you're sick, the things you need to do: wash your hands, avoid touching eyes, cover your cough, stay home when you're sick. And if you're sick, make sure that the principals are contacted. And then accommodations are made for students who are vulnerable. So if we were back in school and there was an incident where we've got a vulnerable student, we would make accommodations for that student. Breakfast and lunch, schools are on until further notice. So if any families that need lunch or would like it can participate in our meal delivery, and they'll contact Mrs. Bussey. Technology needs, all that goes through Mrs. Bitts. We've got it. She's got it set up with a help desk for a ticket. You put it in, need assistance, technology, she'll respond to that. Students have their devices at home, and we're working on getting reliable internet to those who need it. We're directing community partners who are providing free internet services during the time. We're guiding them to contact those families and ensure the families have a place to go with high-speed internet if they can't get it to their house. Technology being utilized, the synchronous online learning management system, Seesaw Schoology, and our synchronous online learning in Zoom in groups of one-on-one. Our testing, as you probably heard, they announced that statewide testing has been canceled this year. And so that indicates that North Dakota State Assessment, NDAA, and ACT. And then accelerated reader, we need to contact Mrs. Undon for that. Grading, we'll continue with our current grading approaches during an extended school closure. Teachers will continue using a variety of means of assessment, submitting work through their appropriate learning management systems, online quizzes, online platforms. And if you've already used, they'll continue to use the online journey. Video conferencing, again, utilizing Zoom. Future materials are needed to continue educating students at home. We'll be delivering them through our bus routes, and we plan to do this as needed. Federal programs will continue to comply with all guidance regulations for our Title I school-wide. Teachers will continue to work closely with classroom teachers, attend Zoom conferences, and they'll monitor progress. High quality education, effective education-based instruction. It is our duty to ensure a full curriculum of the regular school experience continues. Content posted to each student's learning management system. We're aligning with the North Dakota content standards. And we're making sure the learning experience and exposure to content, students will be able to view content. Streaming websites, games, conferences, calls, one-on-one calls, chats, instant messaging, web conference. And then we're making sure that our content aligns, and is there a mechanism in place for assessing student assessment grades. Technology, again, we've got Zoom, Seesaw, Schoology, and IXL, and other apps that are being utilized by teachers as Flipgrid, Happy Numbers, RazKids, Epic. And we'll continue to use our current curriculum sent home with the students on the 11th. And then Zoom will be our learning management system. Student engagement, they expect to participate in Zoom sessions, post, complete assignments, complete assessments in the corresponding learning management system. And then we've got learning expectations, or we've got for the elementary, so I'll let Mrs. Bussey take over for pre-K through grade 6, and then Mr. Wilson can do the junior high and high school.
Is that something that can be sent out to us?
Not until it's approved.
We will be
Okay.
once it's approved by Department of Public Instruction.
Yeah, we're not going to send it out because it's not approved.
But we're going to do our best to communicate what we expect through that point.
Yep. Once it's there, then we'll post this, so we'll get it on.
What we don't want to happen is to send it out to our stakeholders and then they come back and say that we need to change something. So
I was thinking to our group here, so.
That's the same reason we did
Yeah.
it. Because it's not approved. We didn't
Right.
want to go.
So how are you gonna do some of the thing? I mean, it's all, are you gonna touch base on something?
well, what we had to do was break it apart according to grade levels. So pre-K through 3rd grade is a separate section on there than 4th through 6th. And it's basically only because the amount of time they're working and because of seesaw and Schoology. So pre-K through 3rd grade, we know that those kids are less likely going to be able to navigate on their own. So they're going to have an adult or an older sibling to help them. There's a list of teacher expectations such as being available through contracted hours, communicating with parents, making those connections, making sure they're posting the assignments as needed. All of it together should be about 1 hour of work. So that's outside of a discussion with the teacher or things like that, 1 hour of work because of their age. The teachers will be tracking the attendance daily of the students, and most importantly, the kids who aren't participating by submitting their assignments over their learning management system. And then they will be meeting with me daily to share ideas of what's working well and what's not going well. There's a whole list of student expectations. They were provided their own device, so once we get them hooked up, we are expecting them to connect daily and complete those things that are required daily. Their work will be submitted through Seesaw for those kids, and then teachers are tracking those assignments. We want them to participate in video conferencing participation, but the only thing, in order to keep the continuum of learning going, the back and forth on our learning management system is most important. So if a parent is gone during the day and they miss a video, we're encouraging the teachers to record it and post it to their Seesaw or Schoology account. That way they can watch it. But it's the assignment that goes with those that needs to be done. That makes sense. We provided a list of parent expectations, such as being patient, because this is new for everybody, including our teachers who are doing an amazing job at putting things together in such a short notice. Online learning is not meant to replace a full day of learning, but to keep the learning going as we're away from school hours for an extended amount of time. We gave some tips such as set time aside each day, share the posts that the teachers are making, because a lot of times parents are getting alert on their phones, so they got to make sure they're sharing that with their kid. We know some kids work faster and some kids work slower than others, so we're asking them to reach out if their child is taking a lot longer time than the expected hour to do so. The requirements this first week, while we're waiting to get our plan approved, because he did say we could start if we have something in place, the requirements will probably be less. We're trying to figure out what's working, what's not working. How involved are they at this point? We don't want them to have a whole nother week off just because we're waiting for that April 1st. So we're doing things, I know one of the teachers shared with me a flip grid showing their learning space at home. And then we're just making sure that students aren't having issues while connecting. Communication is key. If something isn't working, to email the teacher, request a phone call, or send them a message. Homework help we have set up by requesting through the child's teacher, and that's how we're kind of utilizing our title teachers also. So they can connect with the title teacher one-on-one to get that help. In order for these to count towards days of the week or days that we need for our school year, we need to make sure that they're making that continuum of learning happen. So Teachers will be contacting them if they've missed 2 assignments or discussions. At the third one, Mr. Wilson and I will jump in and contact them. It's the exact same for 4th through 6th grade, only they're utilizing the platform Schoology over Seesaw.
For 712, a lot of it is the same as Mrs. Bussey went. Few of the difference, 2 to 3 hours of work at the higher end that is outside of what the teachers will be doing with the students. In the secondary level, it's not as much of a transition for us because our teachers have been doing a lot in Schoology, posting assignments, posting notes, posting all the stuff that the kids were doing, and kids have been submitting assignments and stuff onto Schoology throughout the course of the school year. So now it's just a transition of every class of theirs is in there, you know, PE, facts, all of those things are now a part of the Schoology app where they're getting no in-class time. So the teachers are required to be available for emails, answering questions during normal school hours, operating hours. They're going to set up their own expectations, send those out for what they're going to expect on students. Each teacher is required to have some sort of check-in each day that the students are going to have to do for their classes, whether it's a question, a discussion board post, a video submission, and that's how we're going to do our attendance. Once we start having to track attendance is through those communications back and forth with the students, so that then if we got a student that hasn't done anything for 2 days, teacher's going to do it the 3rd day, then I'm contacting parents to make sure that they understand that this is a requirement of them, just like coming to school is, checking in on the online courses or whatnot, submitting the work. You can fail if you choose not to do anything. You're going to fail quarter 4 of that results, and then you don't receive the semester credit. So this is just like school. No, we're not going to cover as much, and we've spoken to the teachers about that our pacing in the classrooms here online, we have to back it off a little bit because of the process. They're losing that contact with the teachers. They're losing that ability to ask a question and get immediate feedback from the teachers, that they have to go through that process. So to try and think that we can continue at the same pacing as in the classroom for the online is unrealistic. And with all the other issues that kids and families are having to deal with through this, we don't want to add to the stress levels as a result of that. But either way, communication is going to be key throughout all of this. That I've told the secondary staff that they have to submit their lesson plans to me the Friday before the week, and they've got to be able to identify what they're teaching, what the students are responsible for doing, and the assignments, and also including any video conferencing, video assignments, all of that stuff, so that the time can be verified and justified as to what they're doing, not just going, well, here's my normal lesson plan. They know these are going to need to be a little more in detail than their traditional lesson plans are, because they've got to be able to identify for me, this is the stuff that I'm teaching, this is the video that I'm posting for all of this, this is the work that the students are. So when I have to contact parents or whatnot, I can be right there saying, this is what the teacher's been covering, this is the stuff that you have to do, the child is responsible for, these are the assignments that are there.
So you're going to cover every class, so say FIA, and for you, like, what about bands or some of that stuff?
They've been posting videos and stuff. We're working with Seesaw right now to give more than 2 teachers the right to a classroom. That's our biggest issue. But Ms. Fitz did say that music and them could upload videos to a Google Drive that will be shared with families over Seesaw and Schoology. So, and then career tech classes, we got information from Mr. Boat today.
Yeah.
That'll be included in the plan.
Yeah, I got that. So the career and tech classes, students that are enrolled in the classes at the Tech Center in Valley City will receive information from those instructors communicating class expectations and the process for completing and participating to earn credit as a result of what they're coming up with there. Same way with the online courses through the NDCDE courses, that those students are still going to have to complete those, whether they're through universities for dual credit, and finish by the due date set at the start of the semester. That we are still, with our plan, anticipating on finishing school when we originally planned. So in order to be able to keep that up, we've got to keep that pacing going and not put off work or classes just as a result of because we're not in school.
To ensure equitable access, we've been working with Cheyenne Valley Special Education on special education or IEPs and 504 expectations. So we have a blurb in our plan, plus we're connecting Cheyenne Valley's plan for us to it. Just that it's our job to continue to provide an education to all students, no matter what. So we'll have alternative actions that will be discussed, and that may change as time goes on, depending on the student and what's working and not working for them. Meetings will continue to take place over Zoom. We're having one tomorrow with me and Ms. Pratt, Ms. Enstead, and Mrs. Zahn. We just invited Ms. Enstead at the last minute so that we're on the same page. And then Mrs. Cooter now will be our contact for the accommodations for 504s as needed. And all their contact information is listed in here. So that when you click on it, you can find that information pretty easily. In order to have these count towards days, we also need to have our counseling sessions continue on. So Mrs. Kuderna put together a newsletter to share with students and families about where they can reach out to if they need. Allison Swenson through Cheyenne Valley, the social worker at Cheyenne Valley, said that she'd be able to help us out during this time to make sure that we're meeting the needs of students as we go on. So Allison's contact information and Mrs. Kuderna's contact information is in here also. And I know she's planning on connecting with, you know, grades at a certain time. So lower elementary grades, upper elementary grades, and still providing group services as needed through Zoom. So, and then contact Mr. Searson if you have any questions.
Yeah, that's the last part of it. Regarding the plan, contact one of us. Best way for administrators to answer questions through email. And again, there might be some questions we might not be able to answer immediately, but we'll get you an answer eventually. So, and then it's got our email addresses listed. And like I said, once we tweak it a little bit, we're going to send it in. Send it down to Steve. I'm going to take a look at it. We got some questions on the format. They gave us a template through the state.
Amy said it was fine.
Okay.
I just got an email.
So we just wanted to make sure that if there's a template sent out to us that we had to follow. And this is basically what all this is following the template. And you know, they sent us some sample plans, and so this is what we put together. So once this is approved, we will begin online learning instruction. What we talked about was this next week will be more connecting with the kids. So teachers will touch base with their kids, let them know what's going on, you know, kind of develop some things. And then we do, I think the high school teachers did have some assignments they sent out, but those won't be due until the plan is approved.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, the ones that had, it was, like I said, it's just a continuation from their normal classes because they conduct so much of their class through Schoology and through the online format that being out of the classroom wasn't such a large displacement for them because the submission, everything's submitted online. All the teachers post their assignments, notes, all of that stuff is posted on there. And we've been doing it all year. So where to find the information, the students are already very familiar with that. It's now, you know, it's for every class. I'm not going to be able to face-to-face with the teachers. Not being in here is the biggest adjustment for both staff and students to make in that regards.
Did they let you know like how long it's going to take to get these plans approved? Because I know it's.
They said there's 175 plans, and then they got 35 people. I think they said they're working on them. So they said don't expect it immediately.
And they said that's why we're supposed to send it and get as many eyes on it as possible. So we send it to our REA 3 members. They gave me a turnaround time of Wednesday for feedback, but they're getting more clarity from DPI also. So, and when we started last Monday, they just said, do a plan. And then we got one outline, so we did another plan based on that outline, and we've been continuously adding it as they give us changes, adding to it as they give us changes. So it will probably still have some changes from what you see today.
Center for Distance Education, what's that? Is that like the ITV?
Well, it'd be our online courses.
And those are just on hold too, basically, for now.
Well, no, those are, those will continue.
They sent out any student in North Dakota don't have to work on them during this day or not pay attention to due dates, but most of our students, I sent out and said, you know, still keep working on those because they are going to be due. And rather than get bombarded at the end because I took 2 weeks off and didn't do anything, and I still got that due date, because if we're gonna end school on May 21st, any senior taking that, theirs due date was a week ahead so that we can get that information to be able to record on transcripts and make sure that they passed it or whatnot. We need that information ahead of time. So unless we're gonna move the end date to school, we gotta kind of keep those dates set where they were. Because they originally get 20 weeks.
Okay, and I guess that's what I'd wondered, because I'd seen that email they sent out where they said you don't have to work on them.
Yeah, and I sent that, no, and I wish, you know, because they automatically send ones out, they had to create that one, but then they'll send an automatic one out telling students how to go about asking for extensions if they're not gonna get done. And I said, we're not allowing extension because they already get 20 weeks, where a student sitting in the classroom gets 18 weeks to complete that course. So we gotta get it to line up more with ours, so to keep track, they need to stay on course as far as that goes.
So you had your PERT meeting, who is gonna be here, who's the essential staff, how are you locking down the buildings? We got a gal that's been in Mexico, was she coming back here?
Yeah, we met and we discussed that we've taken her off the access list. Her stuff's been locked out. She won't be able to come into the school for the.
How did she get her stuff then when she comes back?
She was actually here while we were in the meeting, so.
But the essential would be Mr. Severson, Mrs. Bussey, myself, Bud, Mrs. Fitz, and
Albright.
Mrs.
What are we
Albright.
doing with office staff or business manager?
Well, that's where we've got that on here to talk about right now, but for the next thing beyond the plan, what we're gonna do.
So what are we doing? Are we gonna have one entrance into the building? Like a lot of them shut down, we gonna have that 2 week if you travel, or what's the work plan?
He recommended that anybody who has traveled out of state, but into like Moorhead or something, you would use your discretion. So that's what he recommended. I mean, Pat Sand. Our encouragement is to stay home as much as possible, obviously, because that's what the state is encouraging, but we're.
So I have a question. So he didn't say anything about the hotbed of right now in North Dakota is Burley and Morton County. He didn't suggest anything about people that have traveled there?
No, I mean,
No.
personally, if they've traveled there, I'd like them to reflect on that and make a decision based on judgment.
Okay.
So do we have a protocol? Do we
Yeah.
have anything in
That's what I'm
writing that
asking.
Well,
says, if you as a staff person travel,
That's what's going on. That's what we decided today at the BERT meeting. That's
Okay.
going on, yes.
That they're out of state.
Out of state, and they are out for 14 days.
Or there's also a thing in there, if you come in contact with
Yeah,
it.
and then
then
that
it's
was the
this many
second
days,
part of it. They
so-
said if you
Right.
come into contact with someone that has been tested positive, that's 14 days as well.
And we're limiting staff availability in here that they have to contact Mrs. Bussey or myself when they're gonna come and when they leave. So that we don't have
you know
large
how many
group of
people are here.
teachers. Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I said it'd be nice to do one one entrance, so if you're cleaning, it's just one instead of trying to clean every entrance. They're sanitized. I know that's what a lot of places have done, is that
He
one
told us
entrance.
today that it would die before the next person. I
Well,
mean,
not, 3 days, a lot of that stuff. So,
that's what he told us today, right?
Okay.
So if we can do one entrance,
I can disable all the other doors if that's,
easiest.
I mean,
There's
it'd probably be
been-
easiest to go elementary, enter that door, high school, enter that door, and leave out that door. I
Get
don't
it
know.
out as quick as possible.
that's what they're doing right now anyways,
Yeah.
so we might as well leave the
Other
doors.
than the few times we've had, when we've had everybody come get their stuff prepared and whatever, there's been very, very few people here. Me and Dan have been here hanging these new screens and stuff. I mean, there's been very little people here. So, I mean, on that end of it, it's,
And we have it set up because obviously materials and supplies will run out for kids. So we have it set up by last name. If a teacher comes and plans, they go put it there. All of them are labeled by bus route. That's our plan to get information out. So bus one will collect all the bus one and they'll drive their bus out and exchange with.
And it will be the bus driver on that route, the normal, or we're.
that's,
Depends on, I mean, if we've got some older bus drivers, if they don't feel comfortable doing that, then we wouldn't force them to do that.
Right now, they were receptive to it,
yeah,
correct?
I've heard back from everybody so far. The only one I haven't heard back from is one of them, and I'm sure he's fine with it. He's just, doing other things or whatever. Excuse me, but yeah, everybody's been good on that end of, whatever we need them to do, they're fine with, so.
So who is currently, does Deb sit in the office every day? Is she the one that is the most exposed, or, I mean, is she at home? How is this working?
She's been at home. We haven't,
Okay,
we had him 2 days last week, and we haven't had him in since.
so when do you anticipate having anybody in the administrative office, or none during this?
We weren't taking anybody outside of administrators.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw it, how does Lindsay do her job? Sorry, Lindsay, I'm throwing you under a bus here, but is that even possible for her to do her job at home?
Lindsay, I think we discussed that. Her and I have talked. She can come and go as she needs to. Because I'm
Okay.
gonna have to pay bills and she needs to get in here and do that stuff. So, yeah, she would be fine doing that. That's part of, we'd probably have to list her as essential staff if we want her running back and forth. Maybe we would do that.
So when do we make decision after April 1, what we're going with the other staff? Or what, right now, everybody's on board, paid till
Paid
March
till-
31st.
They're paid for 12 days, yeah.
Yes,
Teachers will be paid all year.
they're in contract.
Yeah.
Right.
They'll be paid. But then you gotta decide that, which is down the list here of what do you want to do with the certified staff? Bus drivers, pairs,
And I think
administrative
we'll get more
assistants.
input from that as it goes along here. I don't know if we're looking to make that decision today.
And I guess my thought is that we do pay them. They're basically on call. If they choose not to, unless it's got a, underlying circumstance. But if we call somebody and say, would you do this? And they say no, the response that has been sent through the state is then, are you saying you're not on the payroll anymore? So that's been kind of the stance people have taken. So as we get into this further, we might need more assistance and ask more people to come in, but at this point we haven't.
Can I ask you something, Lindsay? What issues would we have in payroll that you'd see moving ahead here? You got any?
I don't know that I see anything. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a play by ear type of thing. As far as me going to the school and what I've been doing, I've done a couple webinars trying to find out how the FMLA laws are going to affect us, or if they are. I still don't know an answer to that because it depends on if they decide if it applies to people with 50 employees or not. But as far as my plans going forward, I know I have to come to the school this week to run bills since our meeting was so early this month. I know Deb and I have talked about that day being Friday potentially. We need to figure out and make a bunch of changes for subs and things because we had that stuff all entered and ready to go for our teachers that are out on maternity leave and stuff. And then as far as if it comes to like a lockdown type of situation where we can't go anywhere, I mean, if I take my printer home and checks, like, I mean, I can do what I have to, but I'd have to get mail at some point, at least once a week or a couple times a week. I guess that's kind of where I stand on things. I'm happy to come to the school if I'm needed. I'm happy to stay at home if not. I will say that my husband works for a company and he's all over everywhere. So there's nothing saying that I couldn't have an exposure before someone else, even if I'm sitting in my house. So coaching contracts were something that I have questions on, I guess, if you're paying those or not. Some of those were set up to process April 1st because they were getting like a split payment sort of deal, but I've paused those until we get a decision. I also have the school board election deadline coming up March 30th. Technically, according to those laws, I'm supposed to be there till 4 o'clock on March 30th to accept any applications that are coming in. And the business manager listserv, they were talking about that a little bit. Oaks, I guess, has put out a notice that they can be reached online or by email or whatever to make arrangements to meet someone that would want paperwork. So that's what I know about that. But I'm open to sitting there if I need to. That would be a day that I could at least process April's payroll also. So
You need to make some adjustments with Deb with leave and stuff is what I'm hearing.
yep, we need to do that on Friday.
So that comes to the next, she brought up the spring coaches. We have 3 coaches, track coaches. Do we pay them full or partial? When they started their practices. It's been a mix throughout the state. Some of them are paying.
That's what I'm thinking, there's gonna be some more recommendations, I mean, coming down. If Dorothy High School activities shuts it down, which they're supposed to decide by what the 6th.
Well, they have, it's.
They postponed, if they actually
Indefinitely
shut it down.
Yeah.
They're gonna make that decision. So then I would think then you would prorate it somehow. There's not a season. I mean, I think we're gonna give some.
Well, some of the schools have their, and we don't, but some schools have it on a full year, you know, so if I'm getting $5,000, it's.
Some of them have them on
year, so.
Some have them on
Yeah,
contracts.
so there's nothing they can really do with that. So they're getting paid, but ours have broken it down into, you know, some of the payments at the end of, like, as I said, April 1st. So we'd have to decide how much, what we're gonna pay, and or we could just hold off as to just tell her not to pay anything and then wait till we decide on what payment to give them.
Do they have any thoughts out there?
And then I'll just move on to the other thing, no students in the building. That was a governor declaration that we can't bring kids here to do anything. So that put a crimp on special ed. So they're making adjustments to that on how to work around that, what to do. The 2 events that we have coming up, prom, graduation. Prom, do we cancel now or do we wait till April 1st till we get another declaration from the governor?
I recommend waiting.
Okay. And then graduation, how long do we put that off? Anybody got seniors in here? I don't think we do. Oh, Brett does.
I do.
Well, we got almost 2 months for that yet, correct?
Hey, Brent, question for you.
Yes.
Has Colby bought his or his prom stuff yet?
Ellie did.
Allie did?
Yep.
Because that's where I worry if we put it off and then we ultimately end up having to cancel it, that we're gonna run into an issue where a bunch of people went out and bought all of the stuff. Where
I'm afraid a lot of your girls already did.
I'm pretty
Yeah, and I
sure
don't think they're out shopping right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next week or so.
they've got it if they've got it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
But I know I know 2 girls for sure, and possibly 4 that have already went and got stuff.
Okay, so we'll hold off on that then. And like I said, graduation, I'm not sure what, if we do get back in school, I think we could probably have one.
Right.
Depending on what if you're gonna let the kids back in school, you're obviously more than 10, and so I would think that we could probably do it then. But so I guess we can wait a while on that one too then.
Can I have I'm curious why we would postpone looking at shutting down prom. I mean, truthfully, when does prom happen?
the 20,
April 25th.
Okay. Boy, as a parent, I would not want to be out there buying a dress thinking my kid's going to prom and then finding us wait too much longer. That just doesn't seem fair to parents at that point. And maybe those kids that have already bought a dress might be lucky enough to be able to take it back. Maybe they haven't taken the tags off. Just a thought.
You can't buy it.
I think we're in a lose-lose situation
Yeah.
no matter what we decide, because it's a
Some have
huge
it.
Some
event.
already got it.
And
Ones that
it's
don't
going
have
to
it
be
have to make a choice
emotional
of
for
not to
seniors.
go shop right now.
Yeah. And the thing is I don't think we've seen the worst of this yet, according to communications with, the Department of Public Health so my fear is that
We got a couple more weeks of it.
at least, yeah.
Next one.
Ramp it up.
Yep.
It ramps up before it even starts to ramp down.
So could I put a comment in?
Yep.
Since I spent the money already? My feeling is, I'm kind of with Lori. I think you're better off to know now what's going to happen than to sit and wait. So if we decide not to have it, I'm fine with that. But I think they need to know now. And my feeling is I don't see how we could have it, how we could plan for that when I really don't know if we'll even be able to come back to school. Do you, Mr. Severson?
That's kind of the talk, but I know the governor was waiting till all these plans were coming in, and he put April 1st as it, because that's our final foundation aid payment.
Right, but I think the kids deserve to know one way or another, not sit and hope for something. That's probably won't happen.
I agree.
That's my feeling. I mean, me as a parent, I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to get that money back, or Ellie's only a freshman, she probably can use it again, but senior people or whatever, Just through my line of work, going from day to day, that stuff that they keep saying we're gonna hold off for later, well, that's not quite working no more. People need to know right away. That's my 2 cents.
I guess the only, just a question then, Brett, if we say, if the board decides tonight, no prom, and then on April 1st, he says, you're back in school, do we put the prom back on, or do we continue to keep it off? I mean, I think that would be the concern that we might have.
Well, right. Well, I feel we got till April 1st for the decisions, but I'm kind of thinking if we would come back to school late, we could always just have a dance for them or something where they don't need to be so formal, but if they really wanted something, but April 1st is not that far away right now.
No.
But I'm thinking everybody needs to get in their head that it's probably not going to happen. I don't really say I'm coming back April 1st and saying, let's let everybody into school. Do you?
What's that?
Well, I don't really see the governor coming back April 1st and saying, let's let people back into school.
No.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen either, because I was just talked about, it's probably gonna ramp up with, we're gonna see more positive cases.
Well, I think so too.
Is it possible?
Right
To have
now,
it
life in
later.
general is day
Well,
to
what if
day,
we
right?
sent out the message postponing prom? And if school resumes prior to the prom date, there'd be consideration to having prom. So those people that haven't bought anything can hold off on doing it, because if we get to April 14th and we're still not in school, we're not having prom.
Right, because you couldn't even plan anything then, really, could you? To get the planning done that the kids need to do for the occasion.
And especially like the post-prom stuff, wherever they're thinking of doing or going or whatnot, who says that they're gonna be able to do those things at those places?
Correct.
All of this.
Unless you can have it on a physical later date, you shouldn't have it.
Right. I think our biggest worry is what we're going to do for graduation. A lot of the kids can go to prom next year and stuff, but we got how many seniors? 20 some?
Yeah, 17.
You know, they can't come back next year and go through graduation.
No.
So to me, that's more important than prom.
Because
I don't know what your feeling is on that.
Well, my thinking on that, because I started thinking about that, is worst case scenario, we would have to have a closed graduation ceremony where the students would just do everything, but the parents, the crowd wouldn't be there. That they would walk through, get their diplomas, you know, from the superintendent, school board president or whatnot. But that, and, you know, air it over the internet, you know, so people could tune in and watch it, but not physically be there. Yes, it's not ideal, but it's at least them going through the process of walking across that stage, getting their diploma.
Probably have just parents, but no.
Well, it depends on if that still holds up with the 10 people.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that unless you broke.
It's to me, JR, that's a excellent idea. It's something for those 17 kids. You know, that's what I feel. I think they deserve something. If at all possibility we can give them something, they deserve something.
Virtual.
Yeah.
Have them give speeches, have them do all that over.
And you may have to split it up on time slots if you want your mom and dad there.
If you want them here.
You might, you could have your mom and dad here and, you know, the group said, you're graduating at 2 o'clock and it might take 10 minutes to run through that little 3-4 students with their parents here. And then just have.
Well, even
parents
so,
set up
everybody
20 feet
could
apart.
be in on the graduation through the Zoom, but we could have the families together and, you know, they would still, Mr. Wilson could give a speech, whoever, they could still do it all. I know it's not ideal, but hopefully it would be that closure that they needed if worst case scenario, Brent. So, I mean, even if the 10 limit people, we could have some in the gym and have some out here, go out separate doors and.
Well, and here's another question, and Mr. Severson probably know the answer to that. Graduation comes when school's over.
Yes.
So what's prohibiting us from having a normal graduation ceremony when school's no longer in session?
I mean, having everybody in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is if you still got that on there that they're recommending over 10 people.
Yeah.
That would be what would be prohibitive.
Well, and the other thing, it would be a public health concern to have a bunch of people together. I mean, we're recommended not to group up, so why would we want to bring everybody in?
No, I was just curious because
I know.
it was not in session and.
But that would go, yeah, like I said, that would go against whatever, you know, what they're talking about as far as, you know, keeping people social distancing.
I say we do a virtual one, and then later on in the summer, if things calm down, then we can go through the graduation ceremony.
Or like I said, we could figure out what we're gonna do, just an alternative, and then decide how we wanna do, whether it's virtual or bring them in, or however we
Yeah.
can.
We
we've got
want to
some
do
time.
something.
We need
Yeah.
to
We need to do something.
Yeah, and the thing with that would be, do we want, I mean, so if we left the graduation on May 24th, and then, people could still send out their announcements and whatever, and
Yep.
there'd be something. We don't know what it's gonna be, but, like Brent, then you'd have that opportunity to send out, Colby have his graduation announcement sent out, knowing that if you have 50 family members coming, they might not be able to come to the ceremony, but they may be able to come to your house or whatever.
Right. And I feel JR had a good idea if he just brought the senior class in and let them walk through.
Yeah.
If there's only 17 we should easily be able to keep them far enough apart and,
Yeah.
and not have the family in there.
Yeah, and we can just say we're gonna do an alternative ceremony, and then we can decide how we wanna do it as we go forward here.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, got it. So the graduation will be an alternative ceremony then.
And for prom, I just think, I can't see that happening, but that's my feeling.
I think
I
on
hate-
prom, can we wait till the 1st of April to decide?
I mean, it's 1 week away.
It's 1 week away.
Yeah, I think, I agree with that.
Okay.
Give it a week.
If-
I'm leaning against it right now.
Right.
So then on April 1st, I guess I'm thinking he's gonna make a decision before that.
If they extend that, then it's probably not gonna happen with prom.
Yeah, even if he extends it 2 weeks, that puts us right by prom. So if there's any
Right.
extension then after April 1st or whatever, then prom is canceled.
Yep.
And in January, everybody's getting ready to do it.
That way the people know what's going on.
When will the people know?
Well, if you cancel it after April 1st.
Yeah,
Or
well,
whenever the
When the
governor
governor
makes it.
says it's extended, that's when we would make the decision. The prom is not gonna happen.
Right. Because that's not going to give them enough time to plan anything anyways, would it? You can't get the kids together to plan.
But it's pretty well planned already, I think.
But they have to be the decorating, and then they gotta get the post-prom set up and all that too, so.
Next.
Not much else. Just that knowing that, we're gonna set up a plan, the three of us, to, how we'll be working. I know Mrs. Bussey said, and Mr. Wilson said they'd be touching base with their teachers almost daily, so that'll be, that can be done through computer and whatever, so.
So in the building, starting whenever, it's gonna be administration.
I think Mr.
Possibly,
Wilson
yeah.
and I are working from home as much as we possibly can.
Cause that's what I want to get clear. Okay, so-
Yeah,
And I'm supposed to, but I can be here as much as needed. My.
No, I understand. That's what we're trying to see who's gonna be here.
We don't have any plan of anybody being here during the set.
So then can, say Deb or something, somebody's gonna have to answer phones. Can that be remoted to another telephone?
They're gonna get, yes, but I'm gonna set up the reception to go right to voicemail, and then we can be checking the voicemails.
we're asking people to email, because if it's about this or related about this,
Right,
we
but if you
should
got
be.
other people calling for delivery, other basic business, can that phone be sent to somewhere else, to Deb's or whoever?
It can be.
Does Deb want the school
Yeah,
phone being
that's just
forwarded
it if
to
we're paying
her
staff.
cell phone
And some
or
staff
house?
aren't working and getting paid, but some staff are and getting paid. That's where the issue's been coming up. So
Could you repeat that, Danielle?
I said, the issue coming up is if staff continue to get paid, right, which is what Mr. Severson recommended, because we won't be making these days up if our plan is approved. Then if some staff are getting paid and working, but some staff are getting paid and not working, there's a conflict that arises. So that's why Ms. Bitt says, does she want to take on that responsibility? Or I could come here daily, since either way, no matter where I'm at, I'm
And we
salary based, and
can check
there's,
We can
And-
check the voicemail.
Right,
too.
we have voicemails going to Deb's email. So we just need to identify who would keep up on those voicemails. I think it's pretty common knowledge that if you call a school, nobody's gonna answer. They're closed.
All the
So,
other ones we've called are closed.
yeah, I don't think it's a surprise if you try to call here and nobody answers.
Business as
Today the
usual
code,
isn't happening.
The only
code
thing,
lady called Samuelson, and then he got a hold of Bud, and Bud texted us and said, can somebody make sure that you're there to open up, which we were here, so we opened up for her. So if we know when it's coming, I mean, it's not, obviously we won't have any food deliveries at this point right now. I talked to Kim, she hasn't scheduled anything there. And the mail's all staying in Wimbledon. I'm picking that up in the mornings when they come out. And then, don't know would be the.
You're not supposed to be, so you're not supposed to be.
And they're not.
Well, I'm not supposed to be exposed, I'm not supposed to be around a lot of people.
Right.
because of
Right.
So it hasn't been an issue just working this, but I mean, if I was to.
Yeah, there's more people in Bismarck with it.
Well, like, it's not a matter of us, it's a matter of who's exposing us to it, like Lindsay said.
Right.
Like, we've been working closely all this time, it's just a matter of who we're around that's being exposed to somebody else. So, I mean, if you want somebody here, I could definitely come here and work.
If you guys, this is just day-to-day operation type. So if you're talking about, you gotta touch base, if some aren't, teachers gotta have leaves or not, right? As we go ahead.
Right, yeah.
So that's going to Deb right now, right?
We will submit it, if we feel that it's a need to take a leave. We're saying if you
But I
do
mean,
this
that
or
includes
this.
Deb in that scenario.
Well,
correct?
I mean, is it Log On Power School? Deb?
she's in,
What? I didn't get to hear what you were saying.
it would only affect payroll, right?
Yeah, it would, so we would just email, like, this person took this sick day this day. So it's not a huge deal working remotely as far as that.
No, but I'd say, should Deb be doing some working remotely? That she's taking care of some of that, are you just gonna bypass that? Go right
Well,
to
once they figure it out on Friday, I think they have it up to date, and then we can just email saying, take off a day of sick leave for this teacher. They didn't.
The problem is that right now Deb doesn't really have access to anything at her house because her computer at school is a desktop computer. So she would need a computer, preferably a PC.
Not to SUI. This is
No.
all payroll.
This is all payroll stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is all accounting stuff.
So, like, she can come in and do it once a week, or how often would she need? Like, that's what we need to know.
That would be
In my mind, and I guess Deb, you can correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, but in my mind, if we came in at least the payroll cutoff day, we could get all of that stuff done that day. So it would be once every pay period to get that done. Does that make sense to you, Deb?
It does, except for I have lunch payments that are being made that I also need to put into SUI, and I don't have access for that except at school.
if she's not comfortable working, coming up once a week or whatever, we can take a laptop and get SUI set on it, just like we have for Lindsay right now. I think we'd have to call SUI because they have to do something, I believe, but.
Yeah, that was just my questions, is how feasible things would get to be able to access some of the things that I need, and SUI was one of them.
Are the ones that, I'm going from vocational wise, they're sending that stuff home with the business manager and the, like Deb, that position, they're working from home.
And that's possible. Lindsay can already do that.
But you basically, you would need Lindsay a printer and checks, right?
Yep, I'd need to grab my printer and a couple of like binders and things from my office, and then the checks. And then somehow get the mail periodically.
Because a lot of them are picking it up here and emailing it in. That's what's happening at the location.
And we can get SUI set up on a Windows machine for Deb.
Yeah, and that would be good. Then I could just come out and pick up the other files and things out of my drawers that I would need.
What is our mail situation currently? It's all
I've been
currently
picking
sitting
it
in
up.
Wimbledon?
I just been picking it up.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Can I pipe in?
Yeah.
Sure.
If we can get them set up to work at home, let's let them work at home. Let's not worry what other people are going to think. She's getting paid, he's not getting paid. We got to keep it running. If they can work at home, let's get them working at home. Everybody's got to try work together on this.
And I agree. And that's what we just talked about. I think everybody's kind of is kind of on call. So if we need somebody, we would make that call to them. I know that Special Ed has said the same thing, that their paras are available for us to utilize. However, we do have Emily Barnes helping us out with some of the delivery of meals. So I think that's just the point, is that we just need to make sure if we need something, we contact people.
Right. And I think we got good enough employees. They know what they got to do.
Agreed.
So how are the lunches being done?
Yeah.
Emily's delivering lunches?
Yes.
Who's making the lunches?
Who's making them?
Kim has everything together in crates, and we're not putting them together, but it's the food to be able to make stuff at their house. So like we did cereals and milks, throw it in a crate. We did the loaf of bread for each family. This was for a week's supplies and stuff, but Emily
So
and
Kim assembles it, Emily delivers.
nothing is being assembled. at
Just
this
put it
point.
like a loaf of bread or whatever. the
It's loaf of
crates are.
bread, meat,
Yeah.
cheese.
Right,
Yeah,
but
she's responsible for it. Yeah.
that was my question.
Yeah, we're not
Who's
just.
putting
Kim's getting it
in?
together.
Somebody
Kim's
has
getting
to
it
put
together.
it in the crates.
Yeah, Kim's doing
Yes,
that,
okay.
and then Emily's coming in, getting it. And we got some Valley City kids that are using the Valley City. I don't know, we haven't had any.
This lunches that they were pertaining to that can be reported on our reimbursement for lunch?
I don't
Is
think,
this the,
we can check on it, but as far as I've gotten, we can't.
okay, okay.
Okay, so a question about that, like our coolers and stuff, what happens with like all that stuff? Like,
That's why we're offering it to families and kind of
Right.
getting the reimbursement.
so then,
The majority of our stuff is in the freezer. We don't
Yeah.
have much in the coolers. So.
Kim's been preparing for that too. Like, okay, they called off for a week. She goes, I'm gonna order some freezer stuff just in case they come back next week. So things are lasting longer and
so then, question for you, Bud.
So,
Do you check our freezers and all that to make sure stuff, I mean, because
They're on
in the
alarms.
summer, we've got people here,
They're on alarms.
they're on alarms.
Yep.
I don't know any of that stuff, so.
Yeah, that's all set up on Bud's phone so that he'll get a text message or whatever.
freezers.
Yeah, freezer.
Well, I mean, I know that sounds weird, but
No,
maybe
and
that's
we did
personal
have
issues with
one-
those things, so it happens.
we've had one issue with that since being in the building. For the beginning, we never had any alarm system on that. And then once we started doing a few more things, kind of expanding through GNR, we were able to have them put set points in the coolers for us. And we had one drawback of it only alarms when it gets warm, but it never says, okay, now it's back again. Say they were in and out and had the door open, well, you're gonna get that alarm, but it never says, okay, it's good, or okay, it's still bad. And so the one Friday when we had the big archery deal, it had quit. Well, I got a message saying, hey, it's warm in there, and never thought anything of it. First thought was, well, archery's in there, and never thought anything of it. And come on Monday and it was 60 degrees in there. So now it's set up where we extended the first alarm to a little bit longer of a period, and then at a half an hour, if it's still out, it'll send another one, and then at that point, it's like, okay, something is wrong for sure, and then it would be checked. So yeah, on that end, we're set now.
So your side, custodial wise, where do you going forward here?
We had them in on Thursday and Friday and wiped down everything, wiped down cubbies, wiped down, went through the rooms again. I guess, I don't know, I mean, it's been, yeah, kind of touch and go on what we plan to do. I mean, it doesn't make sense to come in every day and clean if nobody's here. But then, you know, I've talked, you know, me and Dan, you know, if it ever finally comes out that we are done coming to the school for school, you know, we want to get started on buses. We want to, you know, get started on some of those things. You know, it gets jammed into the summertime. You know, it'd be nice, you know, if we have this time, you might as well do something with it.
So what point then do you bring the buses home when they decide this next group to?
Pretty much it's just waiting, you know, it's I don't want to run around and go get them all and then, okay, we're back in a week, you know. We have went to, you know, we've went remotely to the buses at this point, and we've got an aerosol bomb that kills everything. There's nothing to this point that has a claim on killing the coronavirus. The supplies that we have here, you know, are on the list of, you know, effective cleaners, but there's nothing technically that has a corona kill claim on it. So, I mean, that's basically where we're at right now is, you know, we've went around with those bombs to the buses, and, you know, yeah, if it finally comes out that we are not going to be busing kids back and forth to the school, then we'll go, you know, go retrieve them just like we do when regular school is open.
But we wouldn't
Well,
want
we're
to do
still-
that until we're finished delivering stuff, having to make those
Right.
home deliveries for materials. Once teachers tell us, yeah, this is the last of it, then we'd be able to bring those in if we're not coming back to school.
So they run it every route to do them deliveries, or just as needed, or they're coming from Valley and Jamestown and
On
everything to run these
on
buses?
Friday at 1 o'clock, everybody's coming. My 10 drivers are coming.
Yep.
And whatever's there for your route, that's what we'll go with. A lot of them, if I can send them in a vehicle, I'll probably send them in a vehicle just so they don't have, you know, the bus sitting at their house or whatever, you know. And then the vehicle would be probably more economical than driving around in the bus for no reason. So that's kind of the plan on Friday, and I would say we'll know more. You know, high school probably isn't gonna have a lot of stuff. They already took their books. You know, their teacher can get stuff to them, like you said, on Schoology and all that. You know, we were in the rooms a little bit while teachers were getting ready, and a lot of them is, you know, well, how many of these math packets do I need to send and all this stuff? Because it was, if we were going to come back, then you end up with, oh yeah, I lost that Go Math number 6, you know, sorry, you know, so I think this will work out okay. You know, just take a little bit of stuff at a time. And like I said, we kind of were worried what people were going to think about, you know, if they would want to do it or not. And everybody's been instant response. Yep, anything you need. Yep, anything you need. So, you know, the people that we have are limited, but they're good for doing what we need.
So if we do send materials in people's vehicles, how does that, if something happens while they're doing?
No, our vehicles.
Oh, it'd be our
Yeah,
vehicles.
our
It's a
vehicles.
school
Yeah,
vehicle.
we wouldn't
Okay.
send somebody in their own vehicle. Yeah, that or a bus. Right? I mean,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we don't have enough for everybody to, you know, to take a school vehicle, but yes, that's
Okay.
if
Yeah, no, we would, I don't.
the longer ones are whatever makes sense, we'll send them in a vehicle if we need to, and if not, you know, take the buses or whatever, so.
Other questions?
I'm good.
Odd question. Do we keep track of like all the times that, like if our counselor is working with kids, is all this stuff documented? I mean, like I don't.
From now or before?
From now.
Going now?
Going.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that.
That's all
She's
part
got
of
a
this
tracking
plan?
sheet for all of her
Right, all that
teachers.
kind of stuff,
And we
like
could
lunches
just-
and all that too,
Well,
like
the
kids
only-
receiving that?
Well, we know who's receiving it, so we're gonna know how much we're providing for them. But the only thing that we're tracking are kids that aren't connecting. because we have to make sure that all kids are getting it and moving forward. So we're tracking the kids who aren't getting it so that we can follow up with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Teachers
like
individually,
huge. It's huge. I mean,
teachers are individually tracking grades and stuff,
Mhm.
which obviously we have to keep going in order for these counted days. But as far as like big documentation, Ms. Bits will be tracking technology issues with the online ticketing system. So we'll have data there. And then we'll have data with like kids not connecting.
So the attendance you're taking is all of it, just
Based on submissions of work
what's
for the
coming in.
teachers, yeah.
Well, I have to
Well,
say,
for-
Mr. Wilson's
for-
doing it a little bit different.
For high school, for 7 through 12, each teacher for each class they have has an activity every day that students have to log into, complete that. That signifies attendance for that class.
Yeah.
Yep.
well, I know that just in the elementary, you know, I just have kindergarten and a fifth grader, but both those teachers have done meetings with the kids and all that, and it's going really well.
Yeah,
Even my 5, you know, they're 6 now, I guess, but my 6-year-old can do it. So
we're
it's
a little
working.
bit of a different
So
picture because Ms. Bits has been wonderful. We had all of the stuff,
In
so we
place.
were ready to
Yeah.
jump in
Yeah.
immediately. So
Yeah.
we're hoping to clarify that soon. Like, yes, we want you to start because we don't want to wait, but April 1st will be.
well, they're all doing. I just 2 are doing it already. So
Yeah.
and I think the others are too. So
Absolutely.
it's-
I've been getting messages from Mrs. Miller as I'm sitting here for my.
So
first grade.
technically it's April 1 that we're doing.
officially.
Well, it's,
Great.
that would be,
Great.
that'd be the ultimate last. If
Yeah.
we send our plan in tomorrow and it gets approved on Thursday, we'll go right,
Correct.
we'll just send the thing out that, the
Mhm.
grade, now you can start grading, because there are plans.
And so what happens is teachers might send things out, but they would have until April 1st
Yeah.
to get it done for a grade.
And that's
for that
how
reason.
Mrs. Almond explained it to the kids today. She's like, we are gonna just start so we are comfortable with it
Yeah.
and we know how to do it. And she's asking kids that have done some things to send directions to the other kids to help them out. So
And that's kind of what the state has kind of asked for, is that you build those relationships through your technology, because it's new to everybody. You know, so you're with a new device and you want to jump on there and start grading them, it's not going to happen. You know, so you got to develop that and let them know, set expectations and everything. So, but that's one of the things that I think it's probably a little more frustrating for probably the high school, because they've been doing that more. So they kind of feel like they're just sitting there doing nothing, because they've already got that with the computers with the elementary. I mean, it's
They're
new
loving
and
it.
it's loving it. They're getting to connect.
Yeah.
The hardest part, I think, is we're so used to communicating by verbally talking to each other. So today the teachers texted me and said, can we have a meeting? So we all logged on to Zoom and it was an hour and 20 minutes. It was phenomenal. Like I screen shared, I went through the plan that we shared with you guys tonight. I let them ask questions if everything made sense to them. And then Ms. Fitz and Mr. Wilson did it with high school and it was an hour.
Okay,
So
so that's the certified staff. What about everyone else?
For the rest of this.
What about our, like, you know, our cooks, not our head cook, but our other cooks? Like
All the
how-
rest of the staff,
How
what
are
are
our
they getting?
paras doing?
how are they getting information?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
like,
my paras have been Zooming.
they
They're on I text them all.
Okay.
But as far as cooks and stuff, they're getting the same alerts that all the
Just
certified
all
staff
staff,
would, yeah.
Yes,
Through
I mean-
emails and website, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, technically for all of that type of stuff, I mean, school is canceled until March 31st. So I mean, other than like I've obviously talked to the janitors and tried to let them know, and tried to let my bus drivers know, like, kind of here's where we're at, here's what we're hoping to do, and things like that. And it's you can only tell them so much, because there's
so
nothing
much
to
unknown,
tell them
yeah.
either. And that's probably the hardest thing, is just not being able to give anybody a solid answer on anything.
But I think-
It's
Mrs. Bitts, you touched on that though. This is the day, we're in that era, we don't know what's happening, but I think these people that are so used to being somewhere and aren't, they still need to feel connected. They still need to feel like they
touch base
matter,
with-
even though their school's closed. Yep, we know that, but we're really good about keeping our students connected. We're really good about keeping our teachers connected. We need to connect everybody so they feel that they matter as much as everyone else. And even though there's nothing to tell them that. I have nothing to tell you.
Nothing new today.
But-
Yeah.
What is your suggestion then, Michelle?
know,
other
I'm
than-
not-
Yeah,
I don't
I know what you're saying, but
think
do you
like-
have any suggestions other than like the communication that's been made already?
I think it's a personal call, Bud's
Whoever's
gonna
in
talk
charge
to
of
his,
the group, yeah,
who's in charge of that group.
Yeah.
Personally, give them a call.
or text.
There isn't that many of them. I mean, Bud's gonna talk to his bus drivers.
Yeah.
If it's Mr. Severson or whatever for the cooks, who's to have a personal call. There's nothing wrong with that.
So we have been doing that in groups. I mean,
Right,
maybe not
'cause we
Zoom
tell-
data, but
Just so that everyone is feeling like they know, so that if someone in the community goes, what's your school doing, or how are things going, they can speak and know exactly what's happening. You know?
But hopefully
Yeah, I
these
don't-
conversations are taking
I was gonna
place
say,
right
they
now.
would have to make a phone call to ask those things.
That's true.
Yeah, see,
Technically, just a group email would probably make more sense than anything because we're not supposed to mingle.
at Lisa would know it because she's got kids, but Deb and Sharon wouldn't have it, you know.
Just so they feel connected and cared about.
Well, I think the same applies to your office staff. You've got, yeah, I think they need to be connected with occasionally. I mean, because they're used to seeing you guys every day and now they're stuck in their home trying to figure it out everything. And like Lindsay says, they don't even have mail. So I mean, how are they doing some things? I just think the one thing I kept hearing everybody saying is communication is key. I actually think that needs to work with the ancillary staff as much as you guys are really doing it with the teachers and with the students. You got to reach out to everybody. I'm going to mute myself.
What I hope that everybody understands is that patience is also going to come along with that because we're figuring it out as we go too. Like,
Absolutely.
did I ever expect I was going to deal with this as a first year administrator? No, but my back hurts from carrying these guys on my back the whole way through it. So, like, once we figure out consistent communication with our direct teams, then we can also focus on communicating with and making sure that line of communication is there, but it's going to take us baby steps to move forward also.
Well, we haven't known what we're doing, so to turn around and say what you should be doing
we're
has been like,
hearing what to do from the governor at the exact same time everyone else is hearing, which,
So can I ask a question?
go ahead.
Three. Is our plan gonna pass?
Well,
I
hope so.
am
It's-
confident it will pass.
You guys feel it will?
But we followed the template to a T, and
Yeah.
we don't have half the issues that a lot of other school districts have.
Okay.
Our kids are one-to-one. We're following up with internet companies. We are working closely with Cheyenne Valley on equity and special education. Yeah, I think our plan will
Because I've got asked a lot of questions and I've been bragging you guys up, so I hope it passes.
That's kind of our response too, is we're getting a lot of questions. Well, why should they have to do this since it's not legal yet? And we're like, well, we are confident. We know that we have what it takes to provide this education online. So you better get used to the routine and the relationships this way because it will happen.
Good.
Go ahead, Brett.
Nope, that's all I had. I just wanted to hear that our plan was gonna pass.
2080.
So do you guys have conference calls with administrative leaders or where you guys, are that coming?
NDCL's got one at noon every day. And we were connected, there was a meeting, I think at 6, Baszler had one tonight.
And they send out a Google Doc, updated Google Doc with new information or where we're going. I think in one night we had like 8 emails about plan templates and.
Because we have school board one tomorrow. School board
Yes.
presidents tomorrow.
Bert, did you guys did you have that one?
No, canceled.
Oh, it was
We just
canceled,
got
okay.
The email when the new one is.
Okay, because that was the question was how many were gonna attend and if you could attend, if you know, I mean, if you were on, could Michelle?
Right,
Call
now
in
it
now,
just went out to
okay.
the board president.
Okay, good. So
For
that,
tomorrow.
because that's what I know, I didn't know for sure if that one had gotten through. Yeah, Amy Copas from NDCEL does one every day at noon. Baszler every once in a while has a telephone conference. Josh usually puts together the Zoom ones for us and Oaks, Maple Valley, whole page that we do. We've been doing one weekly. So we've been staying with what they're doing too, so. And like I said, it's all brand new, so it's now on uncharted territory that we're trying to wade through, and it's a process. But to be honest, the principals we have, tech coordinator, our building grounds guy, I tell you, have been tremendous. You know, if you had to wade through this by yourself, it'd be a long process. So I'm extremely fortunate to have these people with us. So.
Our teachers have been amazing.
Oh, and the teachers, yeah,
I'm shocked.
they've been amazing.
I really
How
am.
quickly they jumped on board.
Ready.
Yeah, and they jumped on immediately. I mean, there was not any hesitation that when we met with them back before we even knew what was going to happen, they were all, I mean, they were just ready to go. They were out planning and doing everything. So.
And I'm even talking to them on the weekends. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
And that speaks to the importance of, you know, Mrs. Bitts getting us started a year and a half ago on the Schoology app and how beneficial this would be for our school, and starting it halfway in the school year and keep going. If we didn't have that already in process, we'd be struggling like a lot of the other schools.
And there
what
are
are we doing?
lots
How are we
struggling.
doing that? You know, my daughter's going to Jamestown and just seeing the difference of the stuff that they're having to do, the struggles that they're having. You know, it's going, we're pretty good for this. You know, now it's just the only issue that we're really going to have is those few students who are going to drag their feet and try and do as little as possible. You know, that's the only issue that I foresee, aside from missing the students and not being able to interact with them, with the staff members like we typically are used to. That'll be.
So is that how we can use like our paras, like those students get, I mean, I know the principals have to do it too, but can paras kind of help those kids that are falling behind?
Oh, yeah, and then utilizing Mrs. McMillan and Mrs. Anderson. And I read that in the planners that our plan to utilize them, absolutely, and Tracy gave us full reign to utilize Cheyenne Valley paras.
Well, that was the question, are they gonna have some different duties with Cheyenne Valley? Or are they just letting us use
Mrs. Hollinshead is working with kids over Zoom or in an alternate location, depending on what our guidelines are moving forward. Because right now, we're still able to meet with kids one-on-one, or however, we just can't do it in school. So Valley City is using administrative offices. We still have plans for them to work with their groups of kids. It's just, yeah, it'll be small group and in an alternate location, or getting them, you know, one-on-one via Zoom. And then it's just a matter of evaluating whether or not it's working and they're showing progress. So yeah, they're still being utilized with, I don't.
But then you mentioned Emily doing, but does she have more duties that are coming from Cheyenne Valley since she's Cheyenne Valley?
Not at this point.
Not at this
All
point.
of her duties will be, through us at this
For
point.
you guys,
Mhm.
even though they're the, okay.
Yeah, that's great.
So can the students, can they do their work anytime during the day, or is there certain times like they go in like certain classes, or what's the deal?
They can, for the secondary, each teacher will set up their own expectations on when the assignments are done. But the students, for, let's say we started tomorrow, would have all day Wednesday to do that virtual check-in to that class. So they could do it at 10 o'clock at night. And as long as they get that, they get that. But then the assignments will have different due dates. You know, this is, I'm giving you the assignment today, it's due Friday. You know, so then the students have till Friday to get that assignment done, but they still have to check in every day to that classroom to check for updates, to do whatever participation check that the teacher's doing as a result.
Because JR, you had brought up Jamestown, and I have a coworker that their kids in school, and their kids have a timeline like
So
10 to 11 they got to do this class, and then 1 to 3 they got to do.
High school.
We're not that way though, right?
No, 10 to 12 they have the online office hours, and then Mondays they have period 1 to 3. Then Tuesdays they have period 2 and 3, 1 to 3. So they broke it up by days.
Okay.
We didn't want to put that restriction on our kids either, because some older kids might be helping younger siblings log on and do things because parents are working.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I was asking that.
But they did that to signify that on Monday, If you need period 1 help, you have from 1 to 3 to specifically be able to get that help, which is why.
Okay.
I need to read a message. I was told it was from a prior board member. My compliments to you and BCN. It appeared from my vantage point, Facebook, and talking to friends that you transitioned to online learning very smoothly. Much credit to you and your work over the years. Your work there over the years. Very good. So that was to Miss Bits.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, sorry, Brent.
That's fine. Yeah, you answered my question. That's just what I was wondering. Thanks.
Squirrel. I just needed to read it so our phone didn't shut off on me.
I don't mind being cut off. That's fine.
But do you see our point of not restricting it so much to a certain time?
Okay.
We just don't
Because the
wanna.
teachers they're accessible.
They're accessible
during
the
the
whole
school
day,
time.
yeah.
7:50
And-
to 3:50.
Yeah.
And we
Every day.
have it in there, like I have one teacher who's like, this is Bussy, can I do this? And I said, if it works for your families, do it. Because we know that we have working parents still. We know that we have little kids who can't connect unless there's a parent at home,
And
so
we
that
have
doesn't do any
teachers,
good either.
we have teachers that have kids that are, you know.
Well, we also have far fewer students than those teachers have to deal with. 30 kids per classroom, 6 periods, that's 180 kids that they've got to deal with per period. For the
I
whole.
think it's gone really well for the kids.
And have them.
Yep. The only other thing left is that I sent you guys a copy of the school board resolution granting emergency powers to the superintendent. And it would be only emergency type situations. I don't know if you guys read through it or not. You'd need a motion to adopt and approve it, and then Mike would sign it and date it. And it's only it'd be through the times of the state of emergency. And then stipulate 1, 2, and 3 give you the authority there, so.
I make a motion to adopt.
I'll second it if the power doesn't go to his head.
What did they say?
Yeah, emergency power.
Emergency powers.
Oh, you want to do that, Lynn? You want a roll call or what, just all in favor, or what do you want?
I'll do a roll call. I'll start with the people at the school first, if that works, so then everyone else can unmute. Michelle,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Chad.
Yes.
That was great.
Did you share this, Mrs. Bessie?
Yes.
I did share it.
Good.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, it's just the district that's good to have that positive feedback about the district.
Yeah, kidding.
Right?
What? Same date, both
Yeah.
places?
Yep.
That doesn't happen very often.
Adjourn.
Are we adjourning?
Thursday.
Yes.
We adjourn, Mike?
Yes, we're adjourned.
Thanks for coming.
Bye, everyone.
The only thing I'd have is, especially for just.
Bye.
Lori,
Wait, hang
just
on.
Lori.
Lori.
Lori, are you there? Okay, just the strategic plan, because we won't be able to.
Yeah.
do it right now, so we're gonna be stuck with, kind of in neutral right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only thing that Dr. Schott suggests is we get together with you on your suggestions. The 3 of us sit down and go through all those. As he said, if we're gonna accept all those, we're gonna need to rewrite the plan. And I said,
What?
well, he said if we're gonna do all this, he said, we're gonna have to redo it. He said, because there's too much stuff in here that we don't have that we didn't discuss.
That we didn't discuss yet.
So if we can just sit down and talk about it. He said his suggestion would to meet with you and find out, what your thought process was and everything. So I don't know sometime when you get some time, the 3 of us can be up here.
We could always Zoom.
Yeah, we could Zoom too. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but as far as that goes, we won't be doing any public meeting, or not public, but we won't be doing any get together with that large group until
Yep.
all this is lifted. So, our strategic plan will be on hold for a while.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay?
Okay, Melissa, and you'll give me a call, right?
Debbie, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
They first